Hey guys, here's your guys' notes on inverse functions. So students will be able to understand what are inverse relation and inverse functions and how to find them. So here's the definition of an inverse relation, you guys. It's the set of ordered pairs obtained by interchanging the first and second elements of each pair in the original function. If the graph of a function contains a point AB, then the graph of the inverse relation of this function contains a point B, comma A. Should the inverse relation of a function f of x also be a function, this inverse function is denoted by f inverse of x. So if the original function is a one-to-one function, the inverse will also be a function. So we're going to be focusing on, there's three methods to finding inverses. We're going to be focusing on two. So the first one is finding the inverse of ordered pairs. And to do that, you guys have to swap the ordered pairs. So if your function is defined as a list of ordered pairs, you simply swap the x and y values. And you remember the inverse relation will be a function only if the original function is one-to-one. So here's an example, you guys, where we have a function and it's composed of these points. Now to find the inverse relation of those points, you guys, all you have to do is switch the x and the y coordinates. So since this is 3, 4, for the inverse function, there will be a point at 4, 3, and negative 2, 1, and negative 1, 5, and 2, 0. So that is a relationship between the original function and the inverse function. All of the x and y coordinates get switched. So you can certainly do those for the other ones, you guys. Negative 5, 2, negative 6, 3, 7, 5, and 4, 8. And for the other one, 2, 7, 3, 8, 4, negative 5, 0, 4, and 9, negative 8. So again, that's something unique about inverse functions. All of the x and y coordinates of the original get switched. Okay, so method 1, done. Here's the next method, solving for inverse functions algebraically. So solving for an inverse relation algebraically is a 3-step process. You first set the function equals to y, you swap the x and y variables, and then you guys solve for y. So, for example, let's find the inverse function of this given function. So set it equals to y, you guys. That's step number 1. Switch the x and y variable, and then from here, you guys just solve for y. Add 16 to both sides, and then divide both sides by 2. So we have y equals 1/2 x plus 16 divided by 2 is 8. So this is our inverse function, and this is the notation to describe an inverse function. 1/2 x plus 8. So to recap, you set it equals to y, you guys. You switch your x and y variables and you solve for your new y. That new y is what we call our inverse. Example 2. Again, same process. Set it equals to y. Switch the x and the y variables. And then you guys solve for your new y. Subtract 6 to both sides. Now we have a fraction here, you guys, which we don't like to deal with too much. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the whole thing by 3. Whatever the denominator is, you guys, just multiply the whole thing by the denominator, because once you distribute this, 3 times x is 3x, 3 times negative 6, negative 18. 3 times negative 2/3 y, the 3, multiplying it by 3 and dividing by 3, that cancels, so you're just left with negative 2y. And then divide both sides by negative 2. So y is going to equals to negative 3 over 2x plus 9, you guys, and that is our inverse function. Okay. let's try these, all right? Same deal, set the equation equals to y, switch the x and y variable, and now solve for y. Add 9 to both sides. And now, to get rid of this second power, you guys have to take the square root of both sides. And once you guys take the square root, you're going to get plus or minus on the other side. So the inverse function is going to be plus or minus the square root of x plus 9. So again, set equals to y, switch the x and y, add 9 to both sides. Because this was a second power, the inverse of raising something to the second power is square rooting it, square rooting both sides. Let's try this one. Y equals x minus 5 squared. You switch the variables. Now we solve for y. We're going to square root both sides, so we get plus or minus the square root of x equals y minus 5. And then to isolate the y, you guys, you add 5 to both sides. So we're going to get plus or minus square root of x plus 5. And that is your guys' inverse function. Okay. Next example, example 5. Set this equals to y, switch your guys' variables, and now solve for y. So that's a square root. We need to get rid of that square root. So the opposite of square root, you guys, is raising both sides to the second power. And then adding 4 to both sides. Y equals x squared plus 4, that is your guys' inverse function, x squared plus 4. Okay, example 6. Set it equals to y, switch the variables, and now solve for your new y. Add 3 to both sides. Now, to get rid of the square root, you raise both sides to the second power. So y equals x plus 3 squared, and that is our inverse function. Okay, so here are 4 doyos, so see how you guys do with that, and see how, once you absorb the example problems, see if you guys are capable of doing these ones. So hopefully you guys pause the video or stuff and you tried it on your own to see how you guys did, okay? So again, set it equals to y, switch the variables, and then solve for your new y. Add 12 to both sides. And now to solve for y, divide both sides by 3. So 1/3 x plus 4, and that is your guys' inverse function. 1/3 x plus 4. The next doyo, again, set it equals to y, switch the variables, solve for y. Add 36 to both sides. To get rid of that second power, you guys have to take the square root to both sides. And don't forget, when you square root, you get plus or minus on the other side. That is your guys' inverse function. Plus or minus square root of x plus 36. Okay, scale it from 1 to 5, your guys' level of understanding. Doyo, 3, set it equals to y, switch both of the variables, and now solve for your y. To get rid of the second power, to get rid of that square root, raise both sides to the second power, and then add 9 to both sides. Y is equals to x squared plus 9, and that is your guys' inverse function right there. Last problem, set it equals to y, switch the variables, solve for y. Add 4 to both sides. To get rid of that fraction, you guys gotta multiply both sides by the denominator, which is 5. Distribute, 5 times x is 5x, 5 times 4 is 20. We get 2y, the 5 times 5 and divide by 5, they cancel. And then divide both sides by 2. Y is going to equals to 5 over 2x plus 10, and that is your guys' inverse function. So hopefully this helps you guys out with your homework assignment, and remember to write at least one thing you learned in today's lesson, okay? Good luck on your guys' homework about inverse functions, and let me know if you guys have questions. Peace.